Baldur's Gate 3 dynamic split screen and co-op changes shown off in Patch 7. Baldur's Gate 3 is Larian's enormously successful Dungeons & Dragons role-playing game that blew critics and players alike away upon its release in August 2023. Since then, Larian has issued a number of updates that have improved and added to the game. But do not expect a Baldur's Gate 4 from the studio, which recently admitted that it won so many awards it began to affect development. Larian has walked away from Baldur's Gate 3 DLC, a potential sequel, and Dungeons & Dragons in general to work on brand new games of its own. The coolest thing to be added in Patch 7 will be a dynamic split-screen mode. When enabled, the screen for co-op partners will be divided when they're at different locations, but merge when they come closer. It's a nice step towards increasing player immersion in Faerûn. Split-screen updates. Dynamic split-screen mode is incoming. With our next update, friends will no longer be eternally confined to their side of the screen, because the power of friendship transcends all obstacles, including screen partitions. When playing in co-op, you'll now have the option to have split screens merge into a single screen when you near one another. You can access this directly from the HUD and within the game settings, both in and out of combat. Bug fixes are also coming for other characters, primarily focused on Will and Astarion. On the topic of party characters, Patch 7 will introduce the ability for co-op players to banter between their characters. More improvements are coming to Honor Mode, with more creatures getting additional legendary actions. Larian has also started a new closed alpha for modding tools arriving in Patch 7. As for those interested in trying out Patch 7 early, the closed beta will take place from July 22, 2024, with registrations now open. Honor Mode improvements. We're continuing to make improvements to combat in Honor Mode 2. With Patch 7, even more creatures have been bestowed additional legendary actions, including the Bulette, everyone's favorite neighborhood surgeon, Malice Thorm, and Githyanki C. Charai Tsgon, Seath Charai Harrak, and Taurus. Dror Ragzlin will now also be able to use a new spell called Arachnid Compulsion to rally the spiders that reside in the nearby pit to fight the real enemy, you. Baldur's Gate 3 Modding Toolkit. With this update also comes our official modding toolkit. Come September, you'll be able to load up your game with a range of new game mods and even try your hand at making some yourself. We recommend giving our modding FAQ a look for more information on what modding support means for Baldur's Gate 3. We're currently working with Baldur's Gate 3 mod authors during our closed alpha who have been busy testing out the toolkit. To find out what some of the mod authors have been working on during the closed alpha, keep reading. The toolkit itself will give you everything you need to edit or create entirely new content, including items, equipment like weapons and armors, consumables, and miscellaneous items. Cosmetics, including different hair, beards, and other textures. Classes and subclasses, creating new variants or modifying existing ones to edit abilities, powers, and skills. Races. These can be created and edited to determine overall appearance, as well as their individual powers and abilities. Dice skins. You'll also have the ability to edit or redesign the appearance of your dice skins. User interface, including extensions and restyling of the game UI. Quality of life improvements, such as mods that edit or improve gameplay that don't rely on unsupported elements. Evil endings. And, of course, Patch 7 will also be bringing several new cinematics that offer your more evil playthroughs a grander finale. From Avatar origin characters, including the Dark Urge, to the multiple different pathways that you can take as your own player character, each new cinematic is yours to discover through nefarious means. While we don't want to give everything away just yet, you can feast your eyes on the teasers below and be on the lookout for more heading your way soon. Dark Urge bug fixes. Along with the new evil ending cinematics coming this patch, we've introduced a number of improvements and bug fixes for our Dark Urge players, ironing out camera pops, missing inspiration, VFX, and a few other issues. For instance, a bug has now been fixed where combat sometimes fails to trigger in the event that you decide to murder one of your companions as the Dark Urge and attack the party. This will now lead to combat with the rest of the gang. And Minthra will now respond accordingly if you've been stripped of Baal's influence. We may have also let a certain bard now join the party as a controllable character if there's an empty slot. Temporarily, of course. But will we be able to kiss Gortash? We hear you plead. We want to kiss Gortash. Listen, he's a complicated guy who's busy contemplating the minutiae of death cult office politics. Baby girl doesn't have time to kiss. Origin character bug fixes. This update will also see improvements made to some cinematics, endgame dialogues, and origin characters, specifically things like clipping issues, a couple of broken triggers for quests, dialogues, and romances, the odd case of retrograde amnesia, and persistent exclamation marks. Oh, and the Blade of Frontiers will no longer absent-mindedly swing his sword mere inches from the aorta of shorter races who try to recruit him. Let's look at some of the highlights. WYLL highlights. Patch 7 includes a heap of fixes for WYLL, ranging from improvements to his dialogue reactivity to fixes for romance scenes. If you've experienced issues triggering the romance scene with WYLL, this update will fix that. Should your relationship be headed in that direction, the cutscene in question will now trigger when you speak to WYLL at camp before your long rest. A bug that had been preventing his romance greeting from triggering has also been fixed, so players in Act 3 who have a stable, loving, and committed relationship with WYLL will now see his romance greeting triggering correctly. We've fixed WYLL's dialogue reactivity during the epilogue for partnered players who have either joined Karlach in the Hells or Lae'zel in the Rebellion, and we also determined there simply weren't enough opportunities to kiss WYLL during the epilogue. This update rectifies that with the option to ask for a kiss in more paths of WYLL's epilogue dialogue. And if you're in holographic form during the epilogue, he'll no longer automatically assume he's talking to Lae'zel, which was weird.